Our brother, Howard LaMont Croshaw, was the oldest son of my parents, Howard and Rosa Croshaw. I was 15 months old when Monty was born. He was an active and athletic brother. At the age of 3, he fell into a canal just east of our home. No one saw him slip in, but he was able to pull himself out. When he came back home, he said to our dad, "Daddy, do you know how I got out of the canal? I got hold of the grass and I pulled myself out." In the words of my dad, this was one of several narrow escapes that we had with Monty. In 1948, Dad bought a 1,000-acre dry farm in Juniper, Idaho. Every summer, our family would go out to the farm and live in a one-room log cabin. We had to haul in our water, our food, and everything we needed for the week. For Monty, this was heaven. He loved to take his .22 and go hunting for jackrabbits and pheasants. Monty attended Wilson Elementary and Logan Junior High School. While attending Logan High, he was a cheerleader, and his big, toothy smile and engaging personality were popular with the students, especially the girls. He was well-liked, and he enjoyed participating in school events.
Monty loved to drag Maine on Saturday nights. He would gather up his friends, and together they would jump into Dad's car and head for town. Sometimes Monty would include me in these Saturday night adventures. He treated me as if I was one of the gang. It wasn't until many years later that I realized how unusual it was for a 16-year-old to include his 7-year-old brother in his social life.
During Monty's junior year in high school, he wanted to enlist in the newly created Air Force, but Mother and Dad were concerned about him leaving school before graduation. With the understanding that he would complete his schoolwork in the military, Monty joined the Air Force in December 1951, 1 month after he turned 17. Dad had to sign for him because he was so young.
By this time, the family lived on 11th North and 2nd East in what we called the Red Brick House. Before he left for Korea, we enjoyed spending time as a family. I was 8 years old, and my younger brother Alan was 6. Little did we know this would be the last time we would see our oldest brother.
Monty was stationed in Kunsan, South Korea. He was trained as a gunner on a B-26 medium bomber, flying with the 13th Squadron of the 3rd Bomb Wing, the Devil's Own, as they called themselves. Monty specifically mentioned several different missions in his letters. They included search and destroy roads and trucks, ammunition and trains, anything that would diminish the ability of the enemy to fight. Some missions required flying as close as 100 feet off the ground. Some pilots even got lower. Each mission proved to be dangerous, as the crew always faced flak from the enemy on the ground.
In April 1953, he wrote,
"While flying last night, I broke the stem out of my watch, broke my earphones, and one of my guns would not fire. However, with the one gun that would fire, I destroyed 10 enemy trucks full of ammunition and supplies for the Reds at the front."
With each mission, Monty became more skilled with his aim. On May 5th, 1953, the Desert News carried an article about Monty's success.
An 18-year-old B-26 gunner who quit high school at 17 to join the Air Force is fast becoming the leading truck buster aboard night roaming light bombers in Korea. Monday night, his guns picked off 9 trucks in an ammunition convoy. The low-flying invader dodged bursts of flak so close to the aircraft that Croshaw said he could read a newspaper by the light. The quiet youth said he liked flak suppression the best because if I get them, they won't get me. He added, "I used to do a lot of shooting at rabbits and pheasants back home with a .22 rifle, but over here I guess I'm just lucky."
During basic training, Monty completed his high school work for his GED and later completed all requirements for his seminary graduation. He was involved with the Latter-day Saint branch in Kusan and enjoyed the company of his fellow soldiers. He learned to love the Korean people, and in one letter he wrote,
These Korean people are funny. They can be hungry, tired, or a bit sick, but they usually have a smile for you if you give them any sign of recognition. They very seldom complain, from what I've been able to find out.
On July the 6th, 1953, Monty wrote his last letter home.
Dear folks, well, I have 42 missions completed, but the weather's been so bad that we haven't been able to get off the ground for 3 days. It might even be possible that I won't fly anymore before I come home. Who knows? Love, Lamont.
On the night of July 13th, Monty was assigned a different crew as the substitute gunner. His regular crew had already shipped home, but Monty's shipping papers had been lost, and his departure had been delayed 2 weeks. He was still waiting for his release papers. 4 crewmen entered the B-26 aircraft. Their mission over North Korea was somewhere near Pyongyang. They never returned. The following morning, Mother and Dad received a Western Union telegram.
Airman First Class Croshaw was the gunner of a B-26 that was lost during a low-level night mission from Kusan Air Base. There were 3 other crew members on board, a pilot, a navigator, and a flight engineer. Takeoff was at 22:45 local time on 13 July. The pilot of Airman First Class Croshaw's aircraft made a last radio report from somewhere within the target area north of Pyongyang to Ground Station Kodiak at 0:15 to ask for a directional fix. This was not unusual, and he did not declare an emergency. There was no further contact. When it was reported overdue at the home base, all possible efforts were made to determine its whereabouts, but to no avail. Ground search was not possible because of the presence of enemy troops in the area. Air search was not conducted due to adverse weather conditions, and the search was canceled completely.
Sometime in the hour after my folks had received the telegram, I came home from playing. I walked into the kitchen. I was only 7 years old, but I could tell something was terribly wrong. My dad, in his overalls, shoulders slumping, was sitting in a kitchen chair, staring blankly at the floor. Mother was standing at the stove, going through the motions of preparing dinner.
Shortly after receiving this devastating telegram, Mother wrote a letter to Monty.
July 15th, 1953. Dearest son, this morning at about 10 o'clock, we received word that you were missing in action. I can't believe it. It can't be true, and yet we have to believe that your plane did not return to the base. We decided to write to you and tell you how things are here at home. And when you return to your base, you will be all caught up on the news. Our feelings are so mixed up that it will be hard to describe them. I'm sort of numb and keep expecting to wake up and find out that this has been a bad dream. All our love, Mother.
Several days later, Mother wrote another letter.
Sunday, July 19th, 1953. Dear son, 5 days now you have been missing. How we long to know where you are. I feel there is a good chance that you are all right. We never expect these things to come to us. It is always the other fellow. But this time, I guess we weren't just so lucky. I can't seem to get my mind on anything else. And nothing is important to me except for your return safely. Love from all of us, Mother.
The letters were returned, unopened. 2 weeks after Monty's plane went down, the Korean Armistice Agreement was signed between North and South Korea, and the conflict was over. The crash site has never been located, and the bodies have never been recovered. Monty was 18.
Mother and Dad, along with other family members, spent hours checking newspapers and news reports as the exchange of prisoners was taking place between the two countries, hoping to see Monty's name. Communication continued from the Air Force, including the following telegram.
We have now been advised of the completion of the exchange of prisoners under the terms of the truce with the North Korean Chinese Communists, signed 27 July 1953. I deeply regret that your son, Airman First Class Howard L. Croshaw, was not among those repatriated. You may be sure the personnel released by the communists are being questioned extensively in an effort to secure any information available concerning your loved one.
I have clear memories of Mother sitting by the radio, hoping and praying she would hear the name of her son announced. We were all clinging to hope.
Prayers continued that Monty might still be discovered alive. But after 1 year, the Air Force officially changed its information from missing in action to deceased.
Following Monty's death, our parents received many medals and other commendations posthumously for Monty. A few of these include the Purple Heart, the Air Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, and the Distinguished Flying Cross, the highest award given for valor and service.
Our family has remembered LaMont for these last 69 years. Many of his nephews and cousins have been named in his honor. Nearing the first anniversary of Lamont's death, our mother wrote,
We have received comfort and a very clear feeling that he was with others of our family in heaven, and that all was well with him.
In the words of Abraham Lincoln, given in the Gettysburg Address,
It is rather for us to be here dedicated
to the great task remaining before us,
That from these honored dead,
We take increased devotion to that cause,
for which they gave
the last full measure of devotion.
Hi, Mom, Dad, Paul, Karma, John, and Al. I thought it would be nice to send you a recording of my voice, since you probably won't be hearing it for some time. Sure wish I could be there with you, but I've got a job to do and some time to put in.